Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 256, Last Meeting of the Night. Edward POV. Mom, you can't believe who I met at the company working on them movies. Missy told her mother Mary as we were eating spaghetti together on the three-seater couch. Sitting between the Cooper ladies, with Missy on my right, I listened to the conversation intently. Mary leaned on the side of the single-seat couch and excitedly pointed at Missy with her fork. You know what? We all should have dinner together, just to catch up. Missy turned to Sheldon and asked, Aren't you going to say something? Paige is your friend too. Aren't you glad to see her again? Leonard was intrigued and Penny joked, Sheldon has a childhood girlfriend? She's not my. Well, I guess since she is someone I knew as a child, and she is a girl, but she's not a friend. She's my rival, Sheldon corrected before continuing pouting and glaring at me from behind. Sheldon remained standing, refusing to take another seat and wanting to wait for me to slip up and get up so he could take his spot back. Penny was excited and interjected, Wait. You have a rival? So she must be a genius too? What is she doing making movies? Missy hesitated and glanced at me, also curious about the same question. I don't know. I guess the pay is good. The pay is great. My company isn't like the other production companies that paid their screenwriter dimes and nickels. I chimed in. By the way, this is delicious, Nana. I swirled the spaghetti with the fork. Mary smiled softly and said, Glad you like it. It's Sheldon's favorite. Yet, you don't seem to care if I eat it or not. Sheldon retorted, but Mary ignored his complaint. When you have lunch with the president, I'll even spoon feed you if that's what you want. In the meantime, grab a plate. I won't. Sheldon said whiningly. Missy turned to Penny. I guess he pays her really well. Because no matter how many times he pissed her off before, she kept seated and didn't storm off. Edward, you pissed her off? Leonard asked laughingly, Why? I shrugged and said, Oh, I didn't do it on purpose. She just has a short fuse. Sheldon agreed with me. I have to agree with that. That is accurate. Both of us nodded in acknowledgement to one another, making Mary fall in disbelief. I thought y'all are fighting. Mary retorted. Then, she smiled at me and said, You have to tell me what it's like. To be me? It's pretty awesome. I replied jokingly. Mary laughed and replied, You know what I'm talking about. Then, I'll tell it all to you once you visit all the places you want to visit in LA. If I do it now, it'll eclipse your other experiences. Missy smiled coyly and said, Mom, don't listen to him. He already told me about it on the drive. Missy. Stop talking. I cupped my hand on her mouth, startling her. Sheldon grimaced and said, Great. Now you need hand sanitizer or you'll contaminate my spot. Missy laughed and turned to Sheldon again. I still haven't heard your answer. Sheldon was taken aback before he agreed, You're right. I still haven't answered your question. If I have to, I'd say, I'm not happy about meeting with Paige, I never do. But I'm quite looking forward to it. Why? I asked. And if you answered it honestly, with some details for the story, I'll give you back your spot. Sheldon was excited and said, Deal. All right. He took his time and shared, Paige, despite her intelligence rivaling mine, although she's a bit inferior. That's not how I remember it. Missy retorted. Sheldon was taken aback and continued, Paige came to my dorm when I was studying at East Texas Tech, asking me if she could stay there for a while. College deemed too much for her, and she couldn't handle the loneliness. She wasn't a social butterfly like me. It was disturbing her mental health so much that she dropped out of the sciences entirely. Needing a place to stay, she came for me to help her. Why is my heart fluttering? Penny whispered as she held Leonard's hand strongly, invested in Sheldon's story. Sheldon saw it and he asked with concern, "Are you having a heart attack?" Penny rolled her eyes and urged, "Continue with the story." "My mom, Missy, and I went to check up on her that night because we were worried, only to find out that she had left. Inside the empty room was a note. She wrote to me that she was thankful for letting her stay, but unfortunately she had to go. I guess the reason I'm curious about the prospect of meeting her is because of the last part of the letter." "What is it? What is it?" Penny was thoroughly invested in the story. "Me too, to be honest, but I didn't show it. In my previous life, I only watched young Sheldon till season 5 after all. I didn't know the ending of the story, except for the fact that it will end with Sheldon's father's death." Sheldon crossed his arms together. "In that letter, she mentioned that she's happy for me for doing well, and she needs to find that for herself somewhere. So if I am to meet her tomorrow, I'm curious to see if she does find it." I asked, "Is that your last meeting with her?" Everyone held their breath as they waited for his answer. Sheldon shook his head and replied nonchalantly, "No. I met her again a month later at the same college. She dragged me to a party where we bumped into Missy there. Paigey was inebriated and Missy made me let her sleep in my dorm room." "Wait. Sheldon, so, while you're 14 and in college, you brought a girl back to your room after going to a party?" Leonard asked with disbelief. Missy laughed and said, "I remembered that now. We went to that college party." Missy realized that she had misspoke, and Mary looked at her with disbelief and anger. "Missy Cooper, are you kidding me?" she yelled angrily. "Mom, that was 15 years ago. The statute of limitation on that had long expired." Missy replied casually, which made Mary fall into disbelief. Before Mary could say anything, Penny asked Sheldon, "Wait. So, was that what you were thinking all these years? Is she finally happy?" Her eyes carried anticipation, and she held her breath as she waited for the answer. "No, I didn't even think about her until Missy mentioned her to me today," Sheldon replied, pouring cold water to Penny's fiery fantasy. I chuckled at the interaction, while Missy was excited about something else. "Rather than focusing on my brother's non-existence love story, I'd rather hear about you too." Leonard and Penny exchanged glances with each other. Both were uncomfortable about the topic. I'ma change the topic to how in the world did Edward know about it in just a few seconds of interactions with Penny, Leonard said quickly. Before I could answer, Sheldon reminded me, "Well, I told you the story." "Oh, right." I stood up, letting him sit down at his spot. His face beamed up with excitement, and his sister rolled her eyes at him. "You should have just sat here, Ed," Missy voiced out. I smiled and said, "I'm the type to keep my word. Besides, I have already finished eating." Turning to Leonard, I chuckled and said, "Well, it was elementary, my dear Watson. Let me deal with the dishes first before I answer your question." "Just put it in the sink," Leonard said loudly. "Can't really make the guy who had dinner with the president wash his own dish at my place." He chuckled. Then he said with awe to Sheldon, "Now, I'm feeling the disbelief of getting to eat with someone who just ate with the president. Who said I was going to wash it?" I joked about the plate. In reality, I was going to wash that. It surprised me when he managed to catch that. I didn't argue and placed my plate inside the sink before returning to the living room. Turning to Sheldon, I asked casually, "Aren't you going to eat?" Sheldon realized that he hadn't had dinner yet, smiled smugly as he stood up from his spot and said, "Yes, finally I can eat. The alluring smell of the spaghetti with hot dog cut up in it has been killing me." He walked to the kitchen to grab a plate for himself. And as he went away, I sat back on the couch. Sheldon returned with his plate, and was dumbfounded. What? I kept my word, didn't I? I said that I'll give back your spot. I just didn't tell you for how long." Flabbergasted, Sheldon became frantic. "Get out of my spot. No, I replied casually. Helpless, he tried to reason, why do you want to sit here anyway? Other than to mess with me? Are you really that petty that you're going to fly my mother and sister over a few states just to do this? Leonard laughed at his misery and then spoke for Sheldon. He won't stop complaining, Edward. If the spot wasn't as important to you as it was to him, then maybe you should let him eat. Otherwise he'll get more cranky, stomping his feet everywhere like a giant baby. Sorry, Mrs. Cooper. Mary chuckled and said, it's fine. I can't get mad at someone for telling the truth. Alright, I'll stop messing with him. Scooch over a little bit. I dragged my butt to the right, getting closer to Missy and Penny. The three of us shared two of the remaining seats by squishing together. Sheldon finally sat down and scoffed smugly at me. His eyes shook a bit as he settled into the cushion. Somehow, it doesn't feel as innocent as it used to be. Missy rolled her eyes while Mary admonished him, I can't believe he's more mature than you are. Nice going, Sheldon. But everyone knows this is my spot. Sheldon defended himself. Back to the topic. Penny stopped the situation from getting out of hand by interrupting Sheldon and his mother. How did you know? Well, for starters, you guys can't look properly at each other without pulling your gaze away. I said jokingly. Leonard and Penny glanced at each other, felt shy, and quickly turned towards me again. We don't do that. Penny said defensively. Missy chuckled and joked, you literally did it just now. It's more of a lucky guess. I just thought that it's time for that to happen. And it did. I said jokingly. Then I turned to Sheldon and said, they even made out on your spot. So I guess that's why it doesn't feel as innocent anymore. What? Sheldon was in disbelief. Leonard panicked and said, no. We didn't wait. Why yeah no. We didn't. Not on your spot. Shy, Penny changed the subject, so, are you studying to be a detective because of your Batman thing? Leonard, Sheldon, and I looked at Penny with amazement. Taken aback, she said, what? Sheldon replied, I guess we're just surprised you know Batman is a detective. Fun fact. The term World Greatest Detective wasn't only anointed to Batman initially. It originally came from the 1949 Detective Comic issue 146, where Batman and Robin were called the World Greatest Detective Team. Blah blah blah. No one cares. Missy interjected as she couldn't listen to Sheldon's rant anymore. Missy turned to me and said, I guess the biggest mystery you should solve is why Sheldon is like this. Asperger's syndrome. I replied casually. Sheldon was baffled, then he thought about it. Leonard whispered to himself, that actually made so much sense. What's that? Is this another one of the Californian made-up diseases? Mary asked with concern and some contempt. It dash. Sheldon interrupted me, Asperger's syndrome is a type of autism spectrum disorder, ASD, characterized by challenges with social interaction and communication, as well as restricted and repetitive behaviors and interests. He is referring to this syndrome. But I don't have it. I excel with communications and social interactions. Mary looked at her son with disbelief. After all these years, I finally got the answer. She mumbled to herself. Leonard thought about it and said, well, even if he has it, it wasn't that bad. Especially at the repetitive behavior part. The only thing that shows he has that is his knock on the door. I nodded, my mouth opened slightly, but I went quiet. Missy caught it and tempted me, you seem like you wanted to say something, but you stopped yourself. Nothing. I just think it wasn't an inappropriate thing to say. I replied to her. I had to stop myself from getting into the topic. Sheldon's act of repetitive knocking came from his pre-adolescent trauma where he caught his dad cheating on his mother. Despite messing with him, I couldn't expose his trauma just to get a few laughs. There are some lines in life that shouldn't be crossed. Sheldon didn't realize it and muttered with disbelief, I don't have Asperger's syndrome. But no one believed him. After having dinner with everyone, I left as I had another person waiting for my presence today. Mary and Missy went back to their beach house using the company driver's car. It seemed that Missy would finally get to experience the fun LA life tomorrow. Penny and Missy made plans to hang out, in which they'll hit the clubs together. Missy told Sheldon that it was the first time ever she was glad to know him, despite being twins. Growing up, Missy was consistently overlooked because Sheldon needed constant attention. Being a child genius also has its perks, in which Missy always felt it was unfair for him to get everything he wanted, but she had to make do with the leftovers. The free trip to LA to do everything she wants healed that little girl in her a little. I drove to a mansion in Malibu, which took me nearly 35 minutes to get there. Luckily there was no traffic, otherwise it would take me more than an hour. Robin tweaking the traffic light also helped me get there faster. Ringing the doorbell at the gate, I was buzzed into the house without even needing to confirm my identity. "Hey! You made it!" RDJ greeted me with open arms as I entered the house. I laughed and asked, "You're here too? Why? You think you're too good to spend time with me now you had lunch with the president?" He scoffed. Falling into disbelief, I said, "I won't live that down for a while, huh? That's the peak of your life. Of course people are going to talk about it." Jon Favreau walked in with a glass of whiskey in his hand. Seemingly drunk, he sat down on the couch while wearing a robe. RDJ and I glanced at each other before he asked John, "What happened? You were really excited just a few minutes ago." "I was just on a call with Feige." John mumbled with a depressed tone. I sat on the seat in front of him and asked, "What happened with Feige? Also, can I get a drink too?" "No." RDJ replied haughtily as he grabbed a glass of whiskey for himself. "Believe me, you shouldn't drink. You don't want to end up like the Pa asked me." I shrugged and said, "Then I'll become Iron Man 20 years later." It doesn't seem like a bad trade-off. Besides, your issues were not about alcohol. And don't you dare start that too. He scolded me from out of nowhere. John chuckled for a bit before he sighed and shared why he was depressed. "Well, I floated the idea of reshooting the ending scene of the movie to Feige." John said. "You know, the one which ends up with Whiplash getting arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D. after a standoff with Tony." Nodding in agreement, I pondered the new scene he and the producers had devised after our discussion. John was excited about the revised ending because it catered to everything Feige wanted to accomplish. It would showcase the build-up for an interconnected cinematic universe, while also allowing for a more satisfying, less messy conclusion. In the original story, they had shown Justin Hammer being arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D., which was the wrong move. Hammer had been working with the government, so S.H.I.E.L.D. apprehending him would not effectively demonstrate their might. Instead, in the revised ending, Whiplash would send a drone armor to distract Tony. This would set up an explosive, climactic fight scene that the producers desired, a sequence meant to push Tony to the edge before the final confrontation. However, when Tony returned to the venue, Whiplash would be standing there alone, waiting to be captured by the authorities. It is then that he would provoke Tony, warning him that even after his arrest, people would continue utilizing services like those Justin Hammer provided. The mass-produced iron armor would fuel wars on a nightmarish scale, rendering Tony Stark inconsequential. Whiplash's true revenge on Stark would be to completely destroy his legacy, mirroring how Howard Stark had done to Whiplash's own father. This would leave Tony in a moral dilemma. Should he kill the unarmed, surrendering Whiplash, forfeiting his claim to heroism? Ultimately, Tony would choose to lower his weapon, surprising Whiplash. He would then quip about the customer satisfaction survey Justin Hammer would give after the day's events, knowing no one would trust Whiplash to build their armor given his attempted takeover. With no bargaining chips left, Whiplash would have no choice but to be locked up again. This revised ending was intended to showcase S.H.I.E.L.D.'s expanded role in the interconnected Marvel Cinematic Universe. By containing Whiplash, Ivan Vanko, they would demonstrate their capability to handle elevated global threats while also leaving the door open to potentially bring the character back in the future, perhaps in a Thunderbolts film. It also connected itself to the legacy theme that was played all over the movie, showing that Tony was a different man from his father, and maybe to build redemption for Ivan Vanko later in the future. In the movie, one could argue that his main target was Tony Stark from the start. Even the armors in the final fight scene were only programmed to attack Tony, not to mindlessly massacre civilians. This revised ending would have allowed the film to more deeply explore the themes of legacy, responsibility, and Stark's evolution as a hero, while also setting up future interconnected storylines within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After that brief thought, John continued telling his story. Feige loves it. But there were a few problems. First, in order to show the final fight, we need to reshoot the entire last scene. That'll mean more CGI works, bigger budget, and more work that needs to be done for a movie that was essentially finished. The problem with the remote-controlled suit idea is that Ivan Vanko doesn't have an AI. Even Tony, who has the AI, hasn't done that yet. The fight scene at the end is only possible because he was in it. John sighed. I have the idea of Ivan wearing partial armor when he was confronting Tony. Maybe fight him a little before he surrenders. RDJ added, Scarlett also has a scheduling problem with her needing to shoot for her new movie. He's just not that into you. The one where she swims naked? I asked. Yeah, wait, what? In disbelief, RDJ shook it off and continued his words. Anyway, since we only have 6 months left before the release, we cannot reshoot the last scene anymore. Not because they couldn't, but the CGI department needed time to handle the effects he wanted. The final scene was already created a year ago, and it was only completed ahead of schedule because of my software. I mean, we can try. John corrected. It's just the studio won't approve the extra expenditure. It'll take at least 5, no 10 more million I think, to reshoot the entire last scene. John turned to me and said, just to be clear, I'm not asking for money. Your software already cuts down the money we need to use. It's down to 155 million compared to the initial projection of 170 million. RDJ was confused. Then, can't they just use what they saved up to reshoot the entire thing? The money has already been moved to fund another project, am I right? I asked John knowingly. He nodded and said, well, the Avengers project needs a lot of money. Well, not that I have any part in that. He quit directing any future projects. Can you believe that? RDJ teased John. Helpless, John replied, I'm not quitting directing. I just want to avoid the studio for a bit. Well, back to my original intention. RDJ scoffed, but he understood what his friend was feeling. John had worked so hard to bring his creative vision to life, but the studio kept interfering and adding more ridiculous requests in order to bring the cinematic universe to life. We had been conversing for over an hour when I floated an idea to John. Hey, do you know about Percy Jackson novels? John, despite already drinking a few glasses, still kept his mind. Yeah. I just heard about it this afternoon. For the life of me, I have no idea what could have happened for a studio to drop a story like that. Well, I have an idea. But I wasn't going to tell him that. John rambled on. I know the creator's mad about the adaptation and even wrote some letters to stop the movie. Never once did I think that I could do anything. I mean, even J.K. Rowling can't do anything when the movie studio changed her story. Not so much though, RDJ asked. Right? John shrugged and said, I don't know. Never read the books. He turned to me and said, why did you ask? Well, I'm trying to get the movie rights. I said, surprising the both of them. Really? I forgot you already bought a couple of movie studios. John exclaimed in wonder. I grinned and asked, when I get it, John, are you interested in directing it? Directing what? John asked, confused. I sipped my pomegranate juice and replied, the Percy Jackson movie. No. Movies. Chapter 257, Game Preparation. Edward POV. Inside my basement, several character design sheets and arts were scattered all over the table. It was 4:30 in the morning, the sun hadn't risen yet. Vader was actively running around the house, even visiting my lab a few times to play with me. Focus on completing Ash and Garen first, then if we have the time, we can do the others. Annie's cinematic is almost done, right? I said to Robin. There were several dots on my face in order for me to use motion capture technology for the character's facial expression references. It made the animation feel more fluid and human. Robin replied, "Yes. It's currently 99% done." The video of Annie, one of the champions in the League of Legends game, was displayed on the holographic screen in front of us. In just a few short minutes, the clip was finally rendered. It showed Annie, the little redhead girl, running from her enemies. Then, the teddy bear in her hand burst into fire, turning into a huge 10 meters tall flaming bear. It roared to her enemies, and she sat on its shoulder with a maniacal, smug, and psychopathic expression on her face, a stark contrast from her innocent look in the beginning. I nodded in satisfaction after watching the 40-second clip introducing the champion. It was supposed to be 1 minute, but I cut 20 seconds from the champion's clips in order to set it aside for the music video. After getting the holographic tech, I didn't need to set up numerous monitors inside my basement anymore to work on a few things simultaneously. The artwork and designs were already scanned into the computer, and Robin made the final edit for them. "Can you get an estimate on how long it will take for us to finish the music video?" I asked with some slight concern. Currently, the company is almost done with the cinematics of the heroes' introductions. The music video was a totally different thing. Even with the entire company working on the video, it would take you at least 1 week to achieve the quality you're striving for, Robin replied. "Unless you use the Unreal Engine," she added. I thought about it for a while and replied, "Okay. Sure. Start up the program. Have you learned how to animate yet?" Robin had lurked behind the animator's computer, learning their ways of animating without anyone realizing it. Currently, her hour of work alone was worth 100 animators working full-time, 24 hours a day. However, she couldn't strive for creative thinking on her own, which made her need someone to direct her on what to do. The Unreal Engine could create worlds as I based it on SAO's Aincrad. However, compared to Aincrad, its capability was limited. The difference between them was that my engine could create 1 floor of the tower, while Aincrad had 100. I canned the map of Runeterra into the Unreal Engine and also inserted the characters there. It'll take at least 1 day before completion before I could direct the clips with Robin. While I was mulling, Robin asked suddenly, "Mind telling me why did you agree to an impossible deadline? It doesn't seem like you to make this type of mistake." Sometimes men become quite stupid in the presence of a beautiful woman. We also want to show off to them, even if it'll put us in danger in the process. I replied casually. "Men are weird then," Robin replied. I laughed. "Yes, we are. We don't have to make everything in animation. We can piece it together with some real people shot, but put that as the last thing we would do. We'll try to get the animation video ready first." "What about the song? You still haven't made it yet?" Robin asked. I rubbed my head as I replied, "I already have a song." "Well, songs. But I need a second person's opinion to pick one of them." "I will contact Miss Sunhee and let her know." Robin texted the vice head of the gaming department right away, but I stopped her. "Wait till morning. She'll get cranky and vengeful if she doesn't get her 10 hours of beauty sleep. Then, I'll never hear the end of it." "Women are also weird," Robin replied. "Yes. Yes, they do." I agreed with her while chuckling. "Should I reach out for someone that's already up right now?" Robin asked helpfully. "I don't think there's anyone that has a similar work schedule as I do," I replied, not thinking much about it as I was focused on finishing the background music for the animated clip. Suddenly, I heard a ringing sound coming from the left projector screen. I turned immediately, panicking. Robin away to disconnect. "Hello?" Claire picked up the call within 5 seconds. Her voice was raspy and dry, sounding like someone who just woke up from her sleep. I grimaced and put my knuckle in front of my mouth, calming myself down. "Sorry, Claire. It's a sleep dial," I greeted, not even believing the excuse coming from my own mouth. "What?" I mouthed. After a brief pause, Claire chuckled. "It's 5 a.m., it must be," she played along. All right, you can continue sleeping, I said as I wanted to end the call. Bye dash. Before that, Claire stopped me from doing so and asked, "How are you?" "I'm fine," I replied hastily. "I really need to go now. I have a lot of work to do." "You said it was a sleep dial," Claire retorted. I was speechless for a moment and replied, "Sleep why dial? I had just woken up." "Oh. That's all right then. Don't work too hard, and make sure that you go to school," Claire advised. "Bye bye." "Bye Claire," I said as I cut the call. Then, I asked Robin flabbergasted, "Why did you call her? She has the most similar work schedule as you do, and she has been awake for 10 minutes. Robin replied innocently. Speechless, I stood there motionlessly for a few seconds before letting out a sigh. "Let's just go back to work," I said tiredly. Robin asked, "Are you going to school today?" "We'll see how the work goes. I have just a little bit over 48 hours to finalize everything for the launch. Wouldn't it be better for you to launch it on the weekends instead on a Wednesday?" Robin asked. Most game companies do tend to release on Thursdays or Fridays, capitalizing on the weekend sales rush. But I answered Robin's question casually, "Well, we don't really need to chase sales here. This is a free-to-play game, so people can just download it straight from our website. In fact, I think releasing on a Wednesday could work to our advantage. Less competition means easier words to get out there." Right now on the game website, there was a timer countdown to the release of the game. The game's website had already racked up over 1 million visits per day, thanks to the pre-launch hype we'd built up. Ash, the beautiful frost archer, was immediately beloved by the fans after the preview of the game went up on the website. We even went on marketing it the old-school way, using the billboards. Ash the Archer, Garano the charismatic juggernaut, Ezreal, and even Amumu had their own solo billboards scattered all over the country. The decision to market the game through expensive marketing was laughed at by the other game competitors in the country. After all, the game concept was free to play. People thought I just had too much money on my hand by doing this type of useless marketing. GameSpot TV, XPlay, and G4 Show in the G4 TV channel had been talking about the game nonstop, creating a buzz in the gaming community about the game. Olivia Munn, a G4 host and future Psylocke actress, rambled on about the game on every platform she could talk into. After watching how they were looking forward to the game, I made Sunhee contact the game show hosts and invite them to the game launch. "Robin, send a note to the game department. Try to get Olivia Munn to host the launch event. If it's necessary, I will get in contact with her myself," I said casually as I ate a cream puff. General POV. While Edward was busy doing work inside his lab, inside the Dunphys' house, Phil finally woke up and went to the kitchen where Claire was making breakfast for the children. Honey, I thought you were working from home today?" Phil asked with some puzzlement as he saw Claire wearing her office clothes. Claire smiled and said, "I know it's abrupt, but I had already worked from home for a week." Phil was dissatisfied and said, "You want to meet Edward behind our back, don't you?" Claire grinned and said, "It's not my fault he's my boss. But I want to meet him too." Phil exclaimed whisperingly, making sure that none of the kids could hear him. "Believe it or not, I even had a dream that he called us this morning," he added. Claire nodded bewilderedly, "He did call me this morning." "What?" Phil was surprised. "That was real?" "Yes, I was right beside you when I picked up the call. That's maybe why you dreamed of it," Claire guessed. "Why didn't you wake me up when he did?" Phil asked, frustrated. Flabbergasted by Phil's reaction, Claire said, "Honey, we didn't even talk for long. He said he dialed my number by mistake. And then we hung up." "He must miss us too," Phil said emphatically. Claire initially wanted to dismiss Phil's thoughts, but as she considered it, she scrunched her nose and tilted her head thoughtfully, eventually conceding, "He does, doesn't he?" "God, I hope so," Phil replied. "Being apart from him for so long made me feel like I'm losing one of my sons. You know what, I wanted to call you insane, but I'm feeling the same way too. Claire replied excitedly. Phil smiled pitifully and said, when you meet him, give him a hug from the both of us, won't you? And risk litigation? I'm sorry, I'll just tell him that we miss him, Claire replied jokingly. Phil was taken aback and he agreed, yeah, you're right. You're too sexy for anyone to view your relationship with him as pure. Flattered, Claire said, oh, does someone like what he sees? It was a new dress, and she was feeling particularly confident about it. Someone does, Phil replied ambiguously. And who might that someone be? Claire asked flirtingly as she moved closer to Phil, putting her hand on her chest. Mitchell. Phil replied innocently, making Claire fall in disbelief. Cam said it made you but look fat though. What? Claire was astonished and her jaw dropped. Wait. Did I flip over? Who said what? Phil mumbled to himself. Oh. And if you do meet him, ask him what he thinks about going to the trampoline park with me and Luke this Saturday. We'll just go there secretly without the girls knowing about it. Claire shook her head and said, I don't think we should teach Luke methods on how to go through someone's back. That'll backfire on us very quickly. Morning, Mom. Haley walked into the kitchen as she was getting ready for school. Phil and Claire froze and looked at her with a stiff smile. Hey. Good morning, Princess. Phil greeted fakely. Claire asked, how did you sleep last night? I heard some sounds coming from your room. Haley stopped to get some pancake, barely took a bite and said, you know what? I think I have finally gotten over him now. Phil's eyes lit up. Really, then we can talk to him again? Claire was surprised and Haley was flabbergasted. Haley replied with a high-pitched voice, no? Then you're still not over him. Claire replied snarkily. Haley was stunned and then grumbled, ugh. Why am I like this? It usually don't take me longer than a day to move on to another boy. What? Phil asked with disbelief, not believing his ear. Haley froze and casually shrugged, nothing. Mary Cooper and Missy Cooper were having breakfast together at a popular cafe in Beverly Hills. They sat at the outdoor seats, enjoying the morning LA sun. It was a popular spot in town, with multiple celebrities having regular appearances there. Oh, Mom, look. Is that guy a celebrity? Missy pointed to a Kevin Smith-like man waiting to get his order inside the cafe. I don't know him, but he does seem familiar. Mary mumbled. She smiled and said, but honestly, everyone we see here looks familiar to someone. I'm already confused on who's who. Missy nodded, me too. I kinda miss Eddie. If he's here, he definitely can tell us. We're here for 2 days now, yet we barely see any other celebrities other than Edward. Mary sighed. Maybe this is normal. Celebrities' sightings are rare, even here in this city. Missy said to comfort her mother. Both of them were unaware that behind them, Courtney Cox was having her breakfast alone at the outdoor table. Bradley Cooper was standing in line behind the Kevin Smith-like man inside the cafe. Gwen Stefani jogged past them, but they were too preoccupied with the Kevin Smith-like man to notice anything. Suddenly, a huge muscular man with a huge bicep approached them. Hello, are you Mary and Missy Cooper? The man asked. Mary and Missy both looked up to see the man's face, with Missy slightly blushing as she saw his appearance. We are, and who might you be? Mary asked with a friendly tone. The man took off his sunglasses and smiled charmingly towards the duo. I'm Theodora Ted. I'm Ted Newgate. I'm Edward's father. Well, what a nice coincidence, Mary said excitedly. Ted smiled wryly and said, not really a coincidence. I tracked you guys down. Huh? Why? Mary asked with a bit of alarm. Inside her mind, she thought that Edward's act of bringing them here was incurring his father's wrath, or maybe he didn't tell his dad about it. Missy, however, was batting her eyes at Ted. His rugged look, his leather jacket, his deep voice, were all hitting Missy's ideal type list. Ted didn't notice the way both of them were looking at him and asked, "Mind if I join you guys?" "No. Not at all," Mary replied. "You can sit next to me." Missy even helped Ted to pull out his chair. Ted chuckled awkwardly and sat next to Missy. "So Ted, don't you want to get breakfast?" "I'd already eaten," Ted replied hurriedly. The table fell into an awkward silence for a while before Mary asked, "It seems that you have something you want to talk to us about." "I do, but I'm a little bit embarrassed." Ted smiled. "Is this about Edward flying us here?" Mary asked. "Oh, no, I don't care about that," Ted said dismissively. "I'm actually here to get some advice from you, Mary." Mary and Missy were confused. "Advice on what?" Mary asked. Ted scratched his cheek and said, "It's about Edward. Dr. Cooper is a brilliant child, yes? We have something in common there." Mary smiled softly and said, "Yes. Sheldon is really brilliant. But sometimes, he can be a little too much." Missy rested her head on her palm as she shot Ted a flirty look. "For me, he's not that great." Ted chuckled for a bit and said sincerely, "As you have already gone through this, I want to ask you for some tips on how I can be a better parent for him." Missy interjected before Mary could answer, "There's nothing much you need to do. He's already awesome. The whole world will agree with me about that. That's one of the things I'm worried about." Ted smiled wryly. Edward POV. As I drove to the company building, I received a call from Jacob. "Hey, you're coming for practice?" Jacob asked. "You know, I had missed out on a lot of practice. I want to go, but right now, I need to go to the company to record a song." "The gym workout song?" "We have been waiting for that for so long," Jacob said teasingly. "By the way, the cheerleaders kept asking if you were coming here." "Why?" I asked with confusion. Jacob shouted, "Tyler, watch out." Oof, from the other side of the call before he replied to Edward casually, "I don't know. Tyrone is the only one who knows the reason." "Wait. What happened to Tyler?" I asked with some interest. "Oh, he was practicing his run, and he crashed right into where the waters are," Jacob replied. "Is he hurt?" I asked with some concern. "No, just his ego is bruised, I think. He looks really embarrassed because his girlfriend sits right in front of the water." Pfft, I laughed at Tyler's misery. After calming down, I said, "The song I'm recording right now can be used as a gym song too. I'll let you listen to it in the group chat after I record it." "All right. I'm going to start practicing," Jacob said, and we ended the call. Walking straight to the entertainment agency, I walked past the dance studio and caught Vanessa entering the studio with some snacks on her hand. She froze like a deer in headlights, and stammered for excuses while trying to hide the food behind her hand. What are you doing here? Are you doing spot checks?" I rolled my eyes and said, "Just eat if you want to eat. I'm not the diet police." She smiled wryly and said, "Sorry. Habits." "You still didn't answer my question though." "Oh, I'm headed to the recording studio. By the way, how's your vocal training going?" "Not bad," Vanessa replied. "I'm almost at my peak form again. In vocal. Not stamina though." I snarked. "By the way, after you're done, come to the recording studio." Her eyes lit up. "Really? I'm ready for my debut?" I rolled my eyes again and mumbled, "Talking to you will hurt my eyes." "It's not for your comeback. You can't even say it's your debut. Stop trying to erase sneaker night from your history. Anyway, I'm launching a game this Wednesday. I need a female vocalist for one of the songs." "All right. I'm in," Vanessa said excitedly. I looked at her with a deadpan expression, which made her enthusiasm snubbed. "What?" she asked with disbelief. "It's an audition. I'm not just going to give it to you." I smirked. Chapter 258, Can't Back Out. Edward POV. Well, this is awkward, Vanessa suddenly said as we entered the recording studio together. The recording studio feels cozy, with sound dampening panels lining the walls to create an optimal acoustic environment. Several isolated vocal booths with glass partitions sit along the perimeter. In the center of the room, a large mixing console dominates, its numerous knobs and faders ready to be adjusted by the skilled hands of a sound engineer. What is? I asked, confused as I sat at the sound synthesizer. Being alone, just the two of us, she explained while crossing her arms, standing by my side. I nodded in acknowledgement and said, "It is weird." She nodded too, but her face froze as I said, "I just realized that I had never seen you perform live before. Consider this an audition." "A audition?" She stammered, panicky. "Yeah, go inside and sing a song you have a great confidence in. I want to hear if your vocal is suitable for the song I have right now." Her eyes still shook for a bit, but she agreed, "All right then. Just to give me a second to warm up my vocals, all right?" "Sure. You can tell me when you're ready," I replied casually. She asked, her eyes lit up for a second, "Aren't you going to create the songs?" The concept of the audition terrified her that she needed a bit more time to prepare herself. I had finished the beat at home, I said, disappointing Vanessa. Entering the other side of the glass, Vanessa started with doing some vocal warm-ups. She wore headphones and stood in front of the microphone. I waited for a while, but since she wasn't ready and I presumed not going to be in a short amount of time, I contacted Sunhee to come to the recording studio. To my surprise, it wasn't Sunhee who was first to come there. Ronaldo, whom I haven't seen for so long, and Randall came into the recording studio to bring some coffee and sandwiches. "Edward, the golden boy," Ronaldo greeted me cheerfully. I chuckled and said, "I didn't know you're back from Europe." "Yes, I finally got back here today. There's a lot of venues that want you to perform there." We had finally narrowed it all down. I nodded and turned to Randall. "Aren't you supposed to be in Vegas?" Taken aback, Randall said, "No, there's a gas leak in the venue, so Taylor's concert had to be postponed. So we came back here." Ronaldo teased, "Don't get your panties in a bunch. Your ex is not coming here." She went to search for her bestie. Breathing in relief secretly, I replied, "I'm wearing boxers today. Not panties." Randall rolled his eyes while Ronaldo chuckled. Ronaldo pointed behind the glass partition, "And why is she blubbering like a baby?" "Vocal training," I replied as I turned to Vanessa. Suddenly, she gave me a thumbs up, signaling that she's ready. Then, I pressed the intercom to talk to her, as it was the only way for someone to talk with someone inside the soundproof area. "What are you singing?" "A Moment Like This," by Kelly Clarkson, Vanessa said with a raspy voice. I raised my eyebrow and said, "Drink some water. You're too tense right now. Relax a little." "I'm trying," she mumbled as she looked around, trying to search for the bottle. "Where is the water bottle?" she exclaimed anxiously, on the brink of a nervous breakdown. Ronaldo quickly ran into the studio, bringing a bottle of water with him. He shouted quickly, "Here! Here!" But, as he gave the bottle to Vanessa, she tried to open the new bottle, but couldn't do it. She sobbed, "It's not opening." Ronaldo took the bottle from her, "Let me help." But as he tried to unscrew the lid, he had difficulty doing so too. "Wait here a moment." Ronaldo rushed back out with the bottle and handed it to Randall, who struggled too because the lid was too oily. For God's sake, I snatched the bottle from Randall and unscrewed the cap easily before handing it to Ronaldo. After Vanessa drank the water and calmed herself down, I asked her, "Would you feel more comfortable if there's no one else here?" "Maybe," she replied. I snapped my fingers at the duo, "Out. And guard the door, please. Sunhee is coming here, so hold her back for a minute. I'll call you back in when she's ready." "Okay. It's our fault too. We came here unannounced," Randall muttered. I shook my head and said, "No. She's just too broken." It saddened me a bit to see she completely lost her confidence after life pinned her to the corner in a boxing match. Be gentle with her, okay? Ronaldo asked me for a favor. I sighed and said, at the very least, I won't be rough with her. That's enough, Ronaldo smiled and went outside with Randall. Want some suggestions? I asked Vanessa. Wiping down her clammy hand on her dress, she replied, I'll take any suggestions right now. But don't tell me to imagine the audience naked. That won't work with me. The only audience here is me. So I guess it'd be quite dangerous if you imagined it. You won't be able to sleep at night as it'll be imprinted in your brain. I said jokingly. She scoffed slightly, her lips were curling up with disbelief. Her nerves relaxed a bit, and I finally gave my suggestion, alright. I'll show you a trick. See that button near the microphone? This button? She asked with confusion. Yup. I nodded. Press it and it'll turn the mic off. Turn it off, sing a few lines, when you think it's up to your standards, then you can turn it on again. Ah. Vanessa's eyes lit up. All right. I'll do that. I lied to her a bit. That button didn't really do anything except for fixing echoes. Vanessa Hudgens, A Moment Like This, Kelly Clarkson cover, live from The Masked Singer. As she thought no one could hear her, she sang with emotions. Impressive vocal range, moving effortlessly between rich, powerful belts and delicate, airy head voice with seamless control and emotional expression, proof that she was trained to sing since she was a young kid.
What if I told you it was all meant to be? Would you believe me? Would you agree? So tell me that you don't think I'm crazy when I tell you love has come here and now. I'm moving like this. Some people wait a lifetime for a moment like this. Some people search forever for that one special kiss.
I nodded in satisfaction as I listened to her. Still oblivious, Vanessa's knees bend a bit as she continues. Stopping abruptly, she had a satisfied look on her face and pressed the button again. I'm ready now. Truly. She said to me again with a huge grin on her face. I grinned and said, too bad. I had already listened to your voice. What? She exclaimed with disbelief. But I pressed the button. That doesn't really do anything. Don't worry. You did really well. Frozen in her spot for a while, she finally breaks her silence. I feel betrayed. Don't be melodramatic. Come out here and learn the song. I rolled my eyes and scolded her. Time passed by quickly inside the recording studio. Vanessa and I both recorded one song each after a thorough discussion with Sunhee and the marketing department for the game launch. Song will be revealed during the launch. I'll get money for this, right? Vanessa asked as we finalized the songs. I turned to her slowly with a stoic expression. Her heart beat anxiously and she held her breath. Right? She hesitated. Yeah. Of course. I replied casually, which made her breath in relief. Sunhee caught my grin and teased, Appa, you did that on purpose to trip her up. What's good about being the boss if you can't play mind games with your workers? I grinned and focused back on the music console. Vanessa was flabbergasted and Sunhee laughed. Vanessa smiled softly and tried to create conversation. Why are you so serious in this launch event anyway? It's just for a video game. I stopped what I was doing and turned towards her. Sunhee and Vanessa were both startled by my expression. Sunhee quickly hit Vanessa's arm lightly. Take it back. Take it back. Furrowing my eyebrow, I touched my face. Did I look scary there? Sorry, not doing that on purpose. Answer me honestly, what kind of people do you think usually play video games? I asked Vanessa. It's a trap. Sun Hee mumbled. Just so you know, some loners, Vanessa hesitated, geek and weirdos. I chuckled a bit and said, I won't deny that. A lot of people who play video games do fit into that category. Video games are popular amongst the outsider who feel like they don't fit into this world. But what people fail to account for is the sheer numbers of people who feel like that. Video games become an escape. For some, it's their only way to get acknowledgement. Huh? How so? You know, that little message on the screen that says, "You're doing great." That's an exaggeration. She scoffed a bit, thinking that I was playing her. I shook my head and said, I'm telling the truth. We didn't talk about the matter further than that. Vanessa went to meet with Maggie, and Sun Hee went to work on the launch with the other department employees. I went to the CEO's office to meet with Pepper, but he wasn't there. Harvey explained, he left a while ago to meet with Mitch and Cam. Oh, all right. Wait, just them? I asked with confusion. Sal, maybe there? Harvey replied, unsure. But now that I got you here, I need to talk to you about something. Sure. I replied as I sat down on the office couch. Harvey took out the agreement document and said, we're at the final stage of finalizing the negotiations. However, their representatives want to sign it on Wednesday. It clashes with your launch party, so I'm getting your opinion on this first before I move further. You and my dad will be my representative in signing the document. So there won't be any problem with me not being there. Or is there a reason for me to be there? Some government representatives want to meet with you. But I guess that can be postponed. Whom? Federal or state? State government. I was stunned after hearing what Harvey said. Damn. They caught wind of it, huh? I mumbled with some dissatisfaction. Harvey smiled wryly and said, it's been all over the news. So they'll definitely smell the money. I chuckled and said, who knows, maybe I can even meet the Terminator. Referring to the governor of the state of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He took office in 2003, and it has been 6 years for him in the office. During that time, the state of California didn't have that much of a great yearly track. This year was particularly bad because California has a $60 billion deficit on their budget. The deficit was particularly bad because of the 2008 economic bubble burst, and they were in a recession age. They had to give out IOUs to their employees, and even had to get a short-term loan to fix their issues. It wouldn't be such a bad thing to listen to them. Harvey said as she sipped her whiskey. They are really desperate. We might get a lot of benefits. I'll leave that to you. Oh, Harvey. I just realized, we forgot about something very important. What? Harvey asked, confused. Did you tell Eve that we'll move forward the agreement with the government instead of the consortium? Harvey blanked out and then she cursed as she slammed the table, shit. At the seaside home, I was lying on the couch in the living room, holding a guitar in my hand, strumming and singing as I took a little break from my work. Vader lied on top of my head, her cat engine going overdrive with her purring. My dad and Frankie walked into the house together, which made me sit up to greet them. Meow. Vader meows loudly as she was startled by the sudden movement. Hello, you lovebirds. I smirked as I greeted them. Frankie and my dad glanced at each other, but their expression wasn't that good. Oh, did you guys have a fight? Or is currently fighting? I asked teasingly as I held my guitar. So Frankie, what stupid thing did my dad do? I asked. My dad was dumbfounded. Why do you think I was the one who did the dumb thing? Are you seriously asking me that? I looked at him disdainfully. Frankie smiled awkwardly and said, he didn't do anything wrong. Oh, so you guys are not fighting? I asked. I was wrong then. Have you had dinner yet? I still have some lasagna left. We had already eaten. My dad replied. He thought of something and asked, anyway, Ed, what did you do today? I was confused, but I answered, a lot of stuff as usual. Good. My dad muttered. Frankie and I looked at him weirdly before Frankie said, I should get going now. By the way, Ted, if you want to end it with me and pursue that Texas girl, I'll give you my blessing. She seems really nice, and is a better fit for you compared to myself. What? Both my dad and I exclaimed at the same time. Texas girl? I looked at my dad with accusatory eyes. What did you do that await, Texas? Did you meet with Mary? Oh my God, you and Mary? No. Missy. Frankie corrected me. I don't await Frankie, did I seem like I was flirting with her, because I really am not. My dad held Frankie's hand as he explained himself. Dad, you met with Missy? I asked with confusion. Why? Just to get to know who you're meeting with. My dad answered casually before turning to Missy. My lip curled downward in a pensive acknowledgement before I placed the guitar to the side and stood up. It made sense to me that he wanted to meet Missy and Mary. He had never met them before after all, and since I flew them out here freely, he's bound to get curious. I ignored their arguments because it bore me. Not because they didn't have any drama, but because it was handled in such a rational way, I couldn't even get invested in the arguments before it was settled. By the time I was back to the living room with a glass of water in my hand, they were already kissing, a light peck on the lip, and making up from their arguments. You guys are phenomenal, I said sarcastically. Frankie, when are you moving in? What? Frankie widened her eyes, confused. It's been a couple of months. I turned to my dad. Be a man and ask her already. You know she's living alone here. That's something that we should talk about, all of us together. My dad tried to involve me in this, but I curled my lips and said, you can proceed with the ease that I have no problems at all with her living here. It's better than she kept sneaking out at night, or pretending that she came here for breakfast in the morning. Frankie blushed a bit. My dad smirked and said, you caught that, huh? I shrugged and said, genius. Remember? I just kept quiet because I didn't want to jinx it. Sometimes, the thrill of not getting caught helps. Now that you have exposed it, I'm sorry, I've lost all interest in continuing this relationship with your dad. Frankie said apologetically. Too bad. But I understand. My dad's a dork. I nodded apologetically to Frankie. Excuse me. I'm still here. He whined. For goodness sake, whoa, right. Ed. When are we going to Wisconsin for Thanksgiving? We're going there? But I had already invited Max to come here. I was surprised when Dad suddenly asked me that. Max can come too. No problem. Dad replied casually. All right then. She'll love riding the horses around. I agreed with him. We'll fly there on the 27th. I have a lot to do here, so I can't go there earlier. I added. As we talked about Thanksgiving, I suddenly remembered that Luke's birthday is around Thanksgiving. I've never checked for the actual date before, but it wouldn't be a problem for Robin to find out about it. What birthday present should I prepare for him? I muttered as I fell into deep thoughts. General POV. In Pasadena, Sheldon Cooper's apartment. Sheldon rushed out of his room, wearing his robe, to open the door as someone was knocking on it loudly, coming. Missy and Penny, both drunk, giggled as they saw Sheldon open the door. Shelley. Both of them cheered at the same time. Sheldon was confused and he asked, Are you both drunk? Are we drunk? Missy turned to Penny. Penny replied with some intelligible reply, in which no one could understand it but Missy. Both of them cackled loudly before Penny said, Shelley, why are you in my apartment? Excuse me. This is my apartment. Your apartment is over there. Missy suddenly grabbed Sheldon's robe threateningly. You. What did you do to Paige? What? Sheldon was confused. You must have done something. Otherwise, why would she not want to meet you? What did I do to her? I didn't even meet her. Sheldon defended himself. In the meantime, Paige was at home, balancing her pen on her lip as she stared at the blank screen. Then, she dropped her head right on the table. What am I supposed to do? I have nothing, she groaned as she laid there motionlessly. Chapter 259, Importance of Protection. General POV. Leonard Hofstadter's laboratory in Caltech. Knock knock. Howard knocked on the open door to alert Leonard about their presence. He entered with Rajesh and walked straight to Leonard. Looking up from his experiment set up with neon lasers, Leonard turned off the power source, turning off the laser first before pulling down his goggles to speak with his friends. So, are we going to the launch party? Howard asked sleazily. I already have my camera storage wiped so I can take pictures of the cosplayer girls there. Leonard chuckled and said, we're not even invited to that, also, don't. Oh, but that's the case. Yeah, if you want to come, you just need to submit the pass application on the website. I paid extra to get the VIP pass. Rajesh said as he took out a few passes from his pocket. It's only $20 each. Awesome. Leonard's excitement halted as he remembered, but Sheldon didn't want to go though. That's even better. We'll invite Sheldon's sister instead. They shared most of the DNA, so it's like part of Sheldon is there if you insist on him coming. Howard joked, his eyes lit up at the mention of Missy. Rajesh scoffed and said, yeah right. There's no way you're going to meet her. She already knows all about you. Rajesh and Leonard laughed at Howard's uncomfortable expression. Leonard laughed and turned to Rajesh, how did you get the pass so fast? Did you apply for it a long time ago? Don't be silly. I applied last night and went to pick it up at the Entertain building this morning. Rajesh replied with a smile. They really do work fast. Howard said with amazement. He turned to Leonard and scrunched his eyebrow. Why doesn't Sheldon want to go to the launch? Leonard signed disappointedly. He's boycotting whatever Edward put up. Last night, Edward finally made the top of Sheldon's mortal enemies list. What did he do? Howard asked with confusion. And to be clear, I'm not curious about why Sheldon gets mad, I just want to know if I can do that too. After chuckling, Leonard replied, I'm not clear about it. You need to ask him. Inside Penny's apartment, Missy and Penny groaned as they woke up from their sleep, with a massive hangover hitting them. Missy slept on the sofa, and Penny was sprawling on the floor in a star shape. I need some water. Missy whispered hoarsely. Both of the girls' hair were disheveled, and their makeup smudged because they went to sleep without taking it off. I'll get some water. Penny struggled as she got up from the floor, her entire body shaking, and she staggered to get to the kitchen. They went overboard last night with the drinking and clubbing, thus turning them into this state. Did we do something after getting home last night? Penny asked. Missy shook her head. I don't remember anything, not even how we got here. Suddenly, the girls heard a knock on the front door. As they were slow and sluggish to open it, the knock became a bit harsher this time. Coming! Missy rushed to the door with a hoarse voice. As she opened it, Mary was standing there with an angry expression. You went clubbing, and you stopped by your brother's apartment to give him a purple nurple. Mary asked angrily as she stomped inside the apartment. Flabbergasted, Missy asked, I did? Back to Caltech, in Sheldon's office. He whimpered as he walked to the board to write his equation, sobbing at the slightest movement as it hurt his chestal region. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but this surely has something to do with him. Sheldon mumbled grievously. Edward POV. Although I wanted to meet with Eva Pepper's mother to apologize to her, we couldn't meet up because she was in Spain, having a 3-day soiree party there. The morning passed by quickly as I was working on the game launch event, only stopping to have a break during lunch. I haven't had that since, I mumbled to myself as I was standing in the kitchen, thinking about what to eat for lunch. I need something soft, I mumbled to myself. But I don't have the roux though. After rummaging through the kitchen cabinet, I found none of the ingredients I needed to make chicken katsu, Japanese-style curry and rice dishes. Damn it! Should I just do instant ramen? Hesitating whether to go out to buy the ingredients or to stay home and work, I referred my schedule to Robin. How much more time do we need to finish up the cinematic videos? Best case scenario estimate, 2 hours. Robin replied. Not bad, how about the worst case scenario? I asked. 2 days. Robin replied. Not including your trip to the dentist. I'm not going to the dentist. I muttered with confusion. Robin sighed and said, in 3 days, you have consumed 12 Snickers bars, 8 Reese's peanut butter cups, 10 Kit Kat bars, 15 Hershey's Kisses, 6 Twix bars, 7 Milky Way bars, 9 Skittles packets, 5 M&M's bags, 4 Butterfinger bars, 3 Starburst packets, 2 Airheads, and 1 entire bag of Jolly Ranchers. That's a total of 102 individual candies, enough to fill a medium-sized box, all devoured in just 3 short days. Flabbergasted by her keeping track of my sweets intake, I said defensively, well, I get stressed when I'm working. There's signs of you experiencing pain in your teeth this morning. I have already booked an appointment to get you to the dentist. I'm still not going to the dentist. It's just a little pain. I can live with it. I said dismissively, and my mind went to think about the curry ingredients again. Fuck it. I'm going to the store. I walked briskly to the front door and grabbed my keys, only to bump into my dad at the front door. Hey, I thought you'd be hungry, he said as he raised the takeouts in his hand. So I bought some Chinese food. Ed? He called me as I was blanking out. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that'll be great, I replied after snapping back to reality. My dad was in his ship captain's uniform, stealing some time out of his busy day to spend it with me. Even though I had a hankering for Japanese food, substituting it with a lunch break with my dad didn't sound so bad. Although when we were eating, I couldn't help but sense he had other intentions of having lunch with me today. The food was laid out outside the house, on the table by the pool where we could watch the sea as we ate. So, spit it out, I asked abruptly. My dad choked and coughed, startled from my suddenness. The food? He asked with bewildered eyes. No, your intention. I don't believe you'd endure the lunchtime traffic, just to have a meal with me. My dad replied awkwardly, I just feel like we haven't talked in a while. I don't know what's going on with your life. So I want to spend some time with you. Goosebumps arising from my skin, I shuddered, oh God, please don't do that. We're not that type of father and son. He raised his hands in surrender, I know. I know. Then, he smirked and said, of course, if you don't want to say it, then I'll just have no choice but to continue emulating this. What did you say it was again, H? A Lifetime movie parental figure way of speaking. I rolled my eyes, so, you're threatening your son? Of course not, he gave me a slight grin, well, sure. A threat then. Fine. What do you want to know? I asked him. As he ate his food, he said, no, we're not doing it like that. I want you to be able to tell me about your life. Just like 2 old friends catching up. Well, I hesitated for a bit before saying, I'm pretty sure I'm crushing hard on Missy. My dad widened his eyes and chuckled, all right. I'm not going to judge you. She seems really nice. Although, she is almost 30. Chuckling, I joked, well, I'm not trying to ask her out, now. Is that why you flew her out here? My dad asked casually, not giving me judgment, just curious. No. That's just for some entertainment. I just want to see their reunion. Paige, Missy, and Sheldon. Who's Paige? I know who Sheldon is, and Missy is, but Paige is a new one. Paige is the screenwriter for the movie Pepper wants to make. Pepper wants? You don't want to make it? Not really my type of movie. It's a rom-com. I'm working on a TV series about chess, also about a high school chemistry teacher who resorts to cooking and selling crystal meth in order to secure his family's financial future before he dies of terminal cancer. Speechless for a second, my dad shook his head in understanding. Right. So that's actually makes sense. Rom-com isn't your thing. I finally learned something new about you. Good enough to stop the conversation and eat the rest of the food in peace? No. He replied decisively. I sighed inwardly before continuing. All right. What's new with me? Oh, my game is launching. I already know about that, but continue. I made a few songs for it. Oh, what kind of songs? Basically to light up the fire of inspiration. That's great. What else? Well, I think that may be it. My dad was silent for a while. What about your friends? Anything new? With what? With my friends? Nah, nothing changed, much. Oh, Enid is thinking about dyeing her hair. Alex is experimenting with cats and chicken. We talked for a while, then I turned the table to him. What about you? What about me? He asked, confused. What's new in your life? You can't ask me to spill my life details without you doing the same thing. Well, now I understand what you're feeling. He mumbled as he thought about it. Too bad the food is gone, otherwise I would have told you. He stood up from the dining table abruptly. Oh, come on. That's unfair. I shouted at his back as he was running away. However, he was stopped by Robin's projection midway to the sink. Robin and my dad talked for a bit before my dad returned to the outdoor table. Ed, do you remember when was the last time you went to the dentist? He asked. Speechless for a second, I replied, I don't know, 2008? You have an eidetic memory. He narrowed his eyes at me with disbelief. I sighed and said, June 17th, 2007. It's been 2 years. My dad muttered with shock. Go and get ready. We're going to the dentist. I still have work to do. You want to go to the dentist, or do you want me to take away your driving privileges? Fine. I rolled my eyes in defeat. After cleaning up the outdoor table, I took a shower and furiously brushed my teeth for a while before walking out of the bathroom. Still afraid of the needle? Dr. Oppen asked with a slight joking tone. I remember you were deathly afraid sitting on the chair when you were young. Now, you're already a world star. Still, you need to get your checkup at least once every 6 months. As he put away the mirror, I could finally answer him, no, not really. How does it look? There's a lot of tartar and plaque buildup. You just need some cleaning. Dr. Oppen continued, but overall your teeth are fine. After I breathed in relief, the doctor suddenly took off his gloves. I asked him with confusion, aren't you going to clean it? Oh, not me. You've been gone for a while, so you've never met her. He opened the door, and a cute blonde dental hygienist entered the room with a huge smile on her face. This is my daughter Ava. But don't worry, I'm not hiring her because of just nepotism. She graduated dental school, and now she's a part of the family business. We're all very proud of her. Hi. Ava waved awkwardly at me. I'm so excited to clean my first teeth. What? Surprised, my eyes widened and I almost jumped out of the seat. Dr. Oppen and Ava laughed at my reaction. She's just joking. She's been here a year. God, my heart almost burst out of my chest. I mumbled as I laid back down on the chair. After a few minutes of the torturous cleaning, Ava switched to the high-powered water jet, spraying a minty cleaning solution onto my teeth. The pressure stung a bit, but I endured it without making a sound. Ava giggled as she saw my wincing face. You're so cute. Don't worry, it's almost over soon. Ha-hoo, I hope. I couldn't really speak as I needed to keep my mouth open wide. After she finished cleaning, she asked me to gargle using a paper cup. Can you sign it? The cup? I asked with disbelief. Yeah. she replied innocently. I was stunned for a second, but I just signed the cup later on. Don't sell it on eBay. I joked. No. I won't. She exclaimed excitedly as she received the cup from me. Dr. Oppen gave me a toothbrush after my session was finished, and he treated me like a complete child, giving me a lecture about mouth hygiene over and over again. My dad struggled to keep in his laughter that he had to place his hand on his mouth to cover it. Helpless, I sighed dejectedly as I watched my dad's reaction. We're not speaking of this ever again. I muttered angrily as I walked out of the dentist office. As we walked past the mounted TV on the wall, both of us stopped abruptly and turned to watch the TV. Presidential assassination attempt, paramilitary forces launch brazen attack, ambush president during public event. Holy, I exclaimed out loud. General POV. The crowd had gathered enthusiastically to hear the president's speech, eager to catch a glimpse of the country's leader. As he stepped up to the podium, a roar of applause and cheers erupted around the plaza. He waved at the crowd, a charismatic smile on his face. Behind him, standing proudly, was his wife and daughters. Good afternoon, America. The president started speaking, and the crowd quietened down. In the first 5 minutes of his speech, he shared about his meeting with the Iran Prime Minister and their negotiations for peace in the Middle East. Plot of White House down. The crowd erupted in more cheers and applause. But just as the president continued his remarks, a few suspicious-looking individuals near the front caught the eye of an observant onlooker. These people seemed out of place, their gazes darting around nervously, raising alarms. Suddenly, the sound of gunfire pierced the air as the would-be assassins opened fire on the president. The president's own Secret Service detail scrambled to fight off the attackers. However, 2 bullets had been released. The onlooker watched in horror as the president was struck, staggering backward slightly from the force of the bullets. But to the onlooker's astonishment, the president remained standing, his expression barely changed. Quickly, the Secret Service agents rushed to escort the president out of the plaza, but as they reached the presidential limousine, a loud explosion rocked the area. A bazooka round had been fired, directly at the president's vehicle. It targeted the open door. The car was invulnerable once it was closed. The onlooker and hundreds of others watched in shock as the vehicle burst into a fiery inferno right in front of their eyes. No! Carol Wilkes Finnerty, Secret Service Presidential Detail Deputy Special Agent in charge, flopped down to the ground, bursting into tears as she believed the entire family was dead. Yet, as the smoke cleared, the onlooker could scarcely believe their eyes. The president, his family, and the Secret Service agents stood unharmed, not a scratch on any of them. The presidential limousine, however, was reduced to a smoldering wreck. President Obama looked at his hand in disbelief. He caught a glimpse of a hexagonal translucent shield protecting him before it disappeared from visible sight. It's a miracle. A fanatical crowd mumbled. His words spread like a virus, and the entire crowd muttered the same thing. God saved the president. Another fanatical man shouted. The sight of the president coming out untouched from the flame, together with his family, was burned into the mind of everyone's watching. Edward POV. As we were watching the exclusive footage on the news, Gongshin suddenly appeared out of nowhere, standing behind me as he too watched the news with a surprised expression. Then, he disappeared again. Dad. Pinch my cheek. Is this real? I mumbled. My dad replied, I want someone to pinch me too. All right. I pinched his waist without warning. God OW. He looked at me with disbelief, and then turned to the TV again. It is real. I can't believe it. What do you think will happen now? My dad asked casually. Shaking my head, I replied, I don't know. But I guess, there'll be a lot of movies that will come out referencing this. Also shit, it'll be quite bad for the launch tomorrow. The media won't cover anything else. My dad looked at me with concern. That's cold. He almost died. You can at least show some concern. After all, you met him. Yeah, lucky for him, I replied ambiguously. Chapter 260, GameCon 1. Edward POV. Geez, it's a 6-hour drive. I can be there in less than an hour if I use the jet, I said, groaning in dissatisfaction as I slammed the hood of the car shut. I then walked over to my grinning dad. Come on, it'll be fun. We've never had a road trip before, he said as he walked to the driver's door of the black SUV. The only thing you're going to have is the never-ending frustration when you find yourself stuck in an avoidable traffic jam, blaming yourself on why you didn't take your son's words more seriously. As I was to enter the car, Maggie burst running from the house's door, rushing to where my dad and I were, with a huge luggage in her hand. Wait for me. I want to go too. She shouted excitedly. My dad smiled, of course. Put your bags in the back, while I scowled and said, You are running from your practice, aren't you? Maggie hesitated and answered without meeting my eyes, and no. Don't get me wrong, this is just to show my support for your new project, yes, that is the reason. Seeing through her lies instantly, I gave her a look of disdain which made her panicked and rushed to enter the car before I could say anything else. Then, I realized something. All right, Maggie, you sit in front. I can use the time to make final touches. I feel too bad letting my dad drive by himself while I do something else, so Maggie's presence there helped. Well, it'd help better if she wasn't snoring 15 minutes into the drive. The sound from her snoring made me look up from my laptop. Maggie, wake up. Her eyes opened abruptly and she fell into confusion for a while. I sighed and said, when we're getting gas, we're going to change seats. She smiled apologetically as she turned to my dad beside her. Sorry. It's 6 am. Oh, I'm not bothered by it. Edward does. My dad explained casually. Maggie glanced at the back seat and gave me a stink eye. Uncle Ted is fine with it. I didn't respond and continued working on the project. Maggie scoffed and closed her eyes. If you sleep, you're going to wake up with a mustache on your face. With permanent ink. I warned her. Startled, Maggie rolled her eyes and looked at my dad. Can we stop by to get some coffee? Sure. Ed, do you want something too? My dad asked after responding to Maggie. Give me my candies and I'll be fine. I said. My dad sighed and said, no candy for a few days. Dr. Oppen said so. Then some bread will be fine. I replied helplessly. Robin, remind me to give a 1-star review on Yelp for Dr. Oppen's office. Robin, ignore him. My dad yelled quickly and glanced at me with disbelief. I smirked. I'm not that petty. It was just a joke. Maggie asked while watching a video on YouTube, Edward, why is no one talking about the assassination attempt yet? I don't know. I replied. I honestly didn't know what was going on in the White House, not because I didn't want to answer her. All I knew, there was a lot of support for the president after the incident, and a lot of conspiracy theories pointed out that America has a breakthrough in energy shield technology. Other popular theories painted the president as a saint, some going on deep dive about what he was doing before, some fanatical worship appeared, and the whole country was in uproar. Maggie's snoring resumed shortly after while she was watching a video on YouTube to understand the issue, and I uncapped my magic marker. Maggie POV. Wait, when did I change my seat to the back? Suddenly, I found myself sitting next to Edward inside the extremely narrow car. Our shoulders were pressed together, and Edward kept squirming, trying to make himself comfortable. I too tried to move around, but we were stuck there in that position no matter what. Oh no, Maggie, why don't you hop onto Edward's lap? We're going through the narrow tunnel, and we need every inch of space we can get. Uncle Ted glanced backward, with his dark sunglasses larger than his head. What? No. I tried to reject it, but I abruptly found myself sitting on Edward's lap. Oh, bumpy car ride ahead. Uncle Ted warned, and the entire car shook up and down. I could feel my body warming up as I sat on Edward's rock-hard, pungent magic marker? The pungent smell of the magic market pulled me out of my ridiculous dream. As I opened my eyes, I was taken aback when I saw Edward's face really close to mine. He smirked mischievous as he capped his marker and returned to his seat. Done. You're now the proud member of the Order of the Phoenix. What the hell? I checked my reflection on the backview mirror, only to find several doodles on my face. He etched a mustache on my lips, stars on the side of my eyes, and Harry Potter's lightning scar on my forehead, on both sides. Well, the tiny stars were kinda cute, but everything else wasn't. Harry Potter only has one scar. I shouted at him angrily. That was a symmetrical choice on my part. He replied with a grin. You bitch. I shouted as I reached my hands to the back of the car, trying to hit him. I unbuckled my seatbelt as I needed more reach, but Edward responded by grabbing my torso and pulling me to sit at the back entirely. Uncle Ted! Help! I shouted desperately, but Uncle Ted could only focus on not crashing the car from our fight. Don't make me turn this car around, he warned. Great. Then I can use the jet, Edward retorted, unintimidated by the warning in the slightest. He stopped at the side of the road, and gave the both of us a stern scolding. In the end, I sat on the back, allowing me to take a nap there, and Edward sat on the front. Because of the whole situation, I kind of forgot about the doodle on my face, and I didn't realize it until we stopped by to get some lunch in San Francisco. It's your own fault to be sleeping in the entire ride here, Edward said annoyingly as I wiped down the magic marker on my face with a combination of rubbing alcohol and wet wipes. Luckily for him, he has all of those things. Or else. Well, there is no or else. I didn't think I could ever win. But I won't let these things go away so easily. He needs repercussions. Edward POV. It was 1:30 in the afternoon when we arrived at Moscone Hall. Despite the game not being officially launched yet, the venue was already crowded with eager fans. A testament to the company's effective marketing strategy that had generated significant pre-launch buzz. Moscone Hall is a large convention center with 4 main halls. The largest of these halls has a maximum capacity of 4,500 people. However, rather than booking the biggest hall, the organizers opted for a smaller convention space in the 2,000 to 3,000 person capacity range. This strategic decision was based on the understanding that for this type of launch event, it's better to have a more densely packed, vibrant atmosphere, rather than renting out the largest hall and potentially having it not even half filled. The better the number of people filling the seats, the more energy and excitement would be created for the launch. Ed, is there a place for us to get off? Maggie asked, aware of my status as a celebrity, and was worried that we may get mobbed by the crowd. I smiled and replied, I don't know, maybe you can find a toilet somewhere? Huh? She was confused, and then blushed as she realized it. I swear to God, one of these days. She mumbled to herself. My dad chuckled and said, that made me miss Max a little bit. I know, right? She'll have even better dirty jokes if she heard that. I replied with a slight excitement. So, which way should I drop you off? My dad asked. At the front will be fine. There's a valet for us, I replied as I pointed to the signs for the valet. That service was just there for the organizers and guests if we had any. Wearing a hoodie with a jacket over it and simple jeans, I blend in well with the crowd of gaming fans in the venue. The crowd erupted into cheers as they saw me leaving the car with Maggie and my dad. The photographers excitedly snapped my pictures as I waved towards them, making my way into the venue. My wolf-cut hairstyle, the silver chain around my neck, and even my sling bag were all scrutinized by the photographers, and it was posted into several news and tabloid websites minutes after I arrived there. A few bodyguards created a perimeter surrounding me as I made my way through the crowd. The event would start at 3 p.m., however, the launching of the game wasn't until 6 p.m., marking its ending. Edward, can we get a picture? Edward, can I get a signature? Edward. The fans called my name a few times, but I just waved at them politely and walked straight to the hall, and entered the backstage with Maggie and my dad. OPPA Sunhee saw me and rushed towards me dramatically, alarming Maggie. Maggie flinched a bit as Sunhee gave me a bear hug. Suddenly, Sunhee glared at Maggie. Wappa, who's this pretty girl? Are you cheating on me? Yes, obviously. I replied with a serious expression, sorry you have to find out this way. Stop messing around, you two. Harvey walked towards us and gave both Sunhee and I a hit on the head with the roll of paper in her hand. Then, she gave me the paper. Ed, do you want to go through the presentation? I'm sure you guys can handle it. I just want to watch. Sunhee suddenly perked up after rubbing her sore head. Appa, can you do Q&A with the crowd? Just for a few questions. Sure. I replied casually. Oh, right, here, the finished music video. You can use it in the opening. I gave Sunhee a USB drive. She grinned and said, as expected of Appa. Why is she calling you Appa? Maggie asked after Sunhee left to get the kickoff presentation. She's just wired wrongly in the head. Harvey replied. Brilliant, but, you know. She added, which made me chuckle a little bit. She's also vengeful, so if you wanna mess with Harvey, just tell Sunhee what she said. I told Maggie. Maggie was taken aback before she smirked and said, what if I told her you were the one who said that? Harvey looked at Maggie with intrigue, while my dad lost interest in the conversation and left to go to the snacks bar. You can try, but she's not going to believe you. I replied tauntingly. By the way, want to go to the stalls? There were a few stalls set up by the company to sell the merchandise in front of the convention hall, in the hallways and the lobby. Maggie asked, are you going to buy me something? I frowned and said, I'm going alone. Wait. I want to go. Maggie grabbed my arm to beg me. As we made our way around the convention hall, I could hear some whispers from amongst the crowd there. Is she his girlfriend? She's making him buy everything. Must be a gold digger. They kinda look nice together, but I don't know why it's giving me an ick. Hey, Edward. My massive, 6 feet 7 inches bodyguard quickly stepped in and stopped the skinny man with a Beatle-style haircut before he could get within 3 meters of me. Howard Wolowitz looked up at the imposing figure with fear in his eyes and said in a shaky voice, I am his acquaintance. Back of the line, pal, the bodyguard growled, clearly not believing Howard. I then noticed Leonard and Rajesh standing behind Howard. Scanning the crowd, I spotted Sheldon hiding nervously behind a nearby pillar, his eyes darting away as they met mine. Seeing the foursome, I turned to the bodyguard and said, it's fine, I know them. You can hit the guy if you want, but do it after. Howard's eyes shook. Don't make him hit me. Relax, Howard, it's a joke. Leonard chuckled nervously as he looked at me, right? Of course. I smirked. It's just a joke, maybe. Howard was nervous and said, I just realized I haven't paid for this merch yet. Then he rushed away. Rajesh smiled politely at me and Maggie, then to my surprise, he spoke, that was fun. He was getting too chummy, trying to make it seem like he knew you in order to pick up some fat girl. Enjoying the misery of others, Rajesh loved how I intimidated Howard and made him run off. I smiled with disbelief and said, I thought you can't speak in the presence of a woman? Oh, he's fine if it's a crowd, and he doesn't look directly at her. Leonard explained and showed me that Rajesh didn't look into Maggie at all. His eyes were locked onto me. I moved Maggie in front of me, and Rajesh looked somewhere else. Leonard laughed, but as he saw Maggie's face, he lowered his eyes to the ground too. I sighed with disbelief and said, Leonard, this is the reason Penny won't go out with you. Be a little bit more confident, will you? Also, what is up with Shelley? Why is he hiding from me? Leonard stammered for a while before he replied, he thought you're on a mission to ruin his life. So he doesn't want to be near you. What did I do? I asked with confusion. Leonard sighed and said, for some reason, he thought that the purple nurple his sister gave him was a part of your malicious plan to ruin his life. What is a purple nurple? Maggie asked. Twisting his nipple until it turns purple. I explained simply. Leonard laughed and then asked, So, is she? Is she what? I asked. You know, your girlfriend? Maggie and I looked at each other, and then we both grimaced with disgust. How can you even ask that? I rebuked him. Leonard was startled and tried to defend himself. Wait, why you're an and not? You're a disgusting pervert. Maggie scolded him, which made him fall into despair. I turned to Maggie and defended Leonard. That's too much. Tone it down a little. He's a little pervert? Maggie was puzzled. Sure, better. Then, I turned to Leonard and explained with a slightly raised voice, making sure that the others around us could hear me too. She's my cousin. Ah. Leonard finally understood why Maggie called him a pervert. He turned to Maggie and apologized. I'm sorry. That's just what everyone else says, so I just assumed it anyway. I'm really sorry. It's fine. Maggie said with a kind smile. Next time, ask first. She grinned teasingly. Leonard chuckled and said, Sure. I will keep that in mind. Although it would be interesting for me to tease Sheldon, I continued walking around the convention center, and finally arrived at the live demonstration of the game. 2 teams of beta testers, with 5 players per team. Some crowd members were recording the match that was displayed on the big screen, and exclaimed in wonder when they saw the smooth, extremely high-quality gameplay, especially for a game made in 2009, and with the added bonus of mesmerizing special effects. In front of the match stage, Olivia Munn and Kevin Pereira, the host of Attack of the Show, in the G4 TV network, were commenting about the battle. However, my attention was more towards the costume she was wearing. Olivia was cosplaying Sivir, the battle mistress, as she hosted the show. A golden crown on her head with turquoise jewel in the center, somewhat revealing black and gray clothing, with black boots, gloves, a bra, and a black skirt with gold accents, a white scarf around her neck. Olivia was ogled by many of the nerdy fans as she hosted the show. I was curious as I saw the TV network camera, so I asked the crew nearby. Turns out, as Olivia was hired to host the launch by me, she made a deal with Sunhee to record some footage for the Attack on the Show's broadcast too. Watching Olivia's seductive, yet humorous antiques as she hosted the show made me chuckle. Even Maggie giggled as Olivia said, I should have worn Ash, the Frost Archer's cosplay instead of Sivir, because at the very least my belly wouldn't be this cold. It was really cold inside the convention center, and the stage she was hosting from was directly underneath the air conditioner. She jumped lightly to heat herself up, but that made the audience even more mesmerized. So we talked about gameplay. Kevin dragged on with his words, playfully teasing Olivia, who was restless at the moment. Her teeth chattering as she slowly turned to Kevin. We already talked about that. All of it is 5 out of 5. Wait, no, it is extraordinary, so I'm going to give it 10 out of 5. Kevin laughed and said, Alright, so Olivia, tell me something, doesn't this 5 versus 5 team match give you a championship vibe? I think that they are not telling us the entire plan they have for the game. It might be so, but they may just have wanted to wait for the kickoff to the launch. Olivia smirked directly to the camera. And I'm the host there. No Kevin. Just me. Kevin rolled his eyes. Wonder if Mr. Millionaire Teenage CEO/worldwide famous artist is a fan of yours. Right now I wonder if I can get a jacket. Olivia joked. But then, something interesting happened on the live broadcast. I walked into the shot as I took off my jacket and placed it onto Olivia. She covered her mouth as she giggled, bewildered by my action. Even Kevin was surprised. Both of them were so excited, and Kevin said, Oh my God, Mr. CEO. Oh my God, the jacket is even making my face flushed. Olivia said as she touched her burning cheeks. I can't believe my prayers were answered. She joked as she touched the jacket, putting her hand through the sleeves and hugged it close to get the warmth. It even smells so nice. Mr. Newgate, do you want to say something to the people watching? Kevin asked before he pointed his microphone to me. Well, I just got here, so I don't know what you guys were talking about. I only caught the last few minutes. I replied and smiled as I looked at Olivia, and yes, I am her fan. I like watching the show in my spare time. Kevin and Olivia made an expression of surprise, with a mixture of disbelief. They became excited and Kevin said, "Wait, you watched the show?" "Yeah. Sometimes," I replied honestly. Watching Olivia Munn challenging how many sausages she can fit into her mouth, her jumping into a giant pie wearing a skimpy made out, with the cream slathered on her chest, or any other insane stuff they recorded in there, was something most teenage boys living in pre-2010 would do. Abraham wouldn't shut up about the show and would share with me in explicit details about how big Olivia's, Brea's ahem presence in the show. We're running out of time. Do you have something you want to say to our audience about the game launch today? Olivia asked me as she received the cue from the cameraman. I smiled at the camera and said, "If you want to watch the launching of the game, you can go to the website and click on the live stream link. We will share the entire kickoff in the live stream. We will absolutely watch it," Kevin said. Olivia smirked knowingly at him, which made him roll his eyes. "I know you're the only host, don't rub that in." As the live stream was over, Olivia gave me a light hug, thanking me for the jacket. I told her she could keep it, which made her gleeful. Maggie asked me incredulously after I got back to her, "Why did you crash on their broadcast? Isn't that dangerous?" "If you don't know what to do, then yes," I replied casually. "Besides, it's good to do some crazy stuff related to the launch. If this goes viral on YouTube or other social media, then the game will get even more exposure." Maggie rolled her eyes and said, "From my standpoint, it just seems that you went up there to flirt with Olivia Munn." "That is my purpose too," I replied honestly. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.